Morning, everyone. Welcome to Start Your Morning with a High Performance Coach. I am Sean, your High Performance Coach, and we are here to help you find more joy, personal growth, and impact in your communities as we go forward. So, today's topic is how to become a world-class communicator. And I'm not going to say that I am there quite yet myself, but I know that there are things through my coaching work, through the work I've done in groups and organizations that can make you a little bit better, and are just good things to keep in mind in general. So I wanted to talk to you about that because when you're a world-class communicator, that's when you can get up in front of people and you can use the nerves to your advantage to deliver an awesome idea, to deliver an awesome inspiring message that can get people rallied around the mission or how we move forward. And it's something I think we need a lot more of today. So I really like communication. I think is very intertwined with leadership. So if you're looking to become a better leader, how you communicate and how you're taking care of that tool in your toolkit really matters on how successful you're going to be. And we know that from the high performance work that I do, with the High Performance Institute set by them, that when you can communicate very clearly, when you can control that interpersonal, not control, but when you can really thrive in interpersonal communications, that's when you see those big shifts in your performance. So it's all kind of tied together. And, so many times people don't get enough communication training. You're taught, in school or in college, you have the one class that's like, here's how you put together a presentation. But they don't, figure out how do you feel confident in front of that group? How do you really, emphasize certain things or, really connect with people? And that stuff's kind of left out in a lot of things that people go through. So we'll address that a little bit. But so I'm a little bit more concerned with how we approach it. And we'll go into that because one time when I was in corporate America, I very distinctly remember I had a coworker come to me who was just like completely livid, super angry and pissed off because one of the contractors we were working with on this project had sent her a note that said, hey, I just want to let you know that those notes you sent over or made for that big meeting we had were very exhaustive, and just wanted to let you know. Thanks, whoever the guy's name was. And, she was super pissed off, and it doesn't sound great until you have the perspective of the guy who wrote the email spoke British English and not American English. And what he was really trying to do, as we found out later, is just give her a compliment. He's like, oh, you did a really good job. It just sounded really weird because British English versus American English. So, so she's like, hey, I'm gonna, I'm calling in his manager and his manager's manager and our management team. We're gonna, this is not acceptable. I feel really disrespected in this, And, she's going on and on, and I'm like, okay, before you do that, reach out and just ask him, how did he intend to do that, right? I don't think I was playing devil's advocate saying, I don't think he really meant it the way that you're taking it, but you should go find out before you go and, call in all the cavalry, because it's either, you're going to find out either it wasn't a big deal and you'll be embarrassed, or you're going to make life hell for this guy and we have to work with him and his coworkers going forward. So let's just take a beat. And then she was fired up, and I actually thought that, she's just going to pull the trigger and rain down fire on this poor guy because, she interpreted an email incorrectly. And how many times in an organization do we send emails and then it doesn't land the way that we think? People assume tone, they put their own emotions onto other people's words. And, it happens all the time. We're all humans, and, we look for these verbal and, nonverbal cues. And so all the nonverbal cues were gone, so she just had what she had. So a couple hours later, she's like, hey, and she's way more cooled down. She's like, yeah, I reached out to the guy, and, he was just complimenting me, and I'm really glad I didn't bring the fire and brimstone down on the whole thing and kind of overreact. And it really like taught me that lesson, and I hope it, I think it sunk in with her that sometimes we just need to take a beat when we get those emails to say, what was really intended here? Or when that person said something in that meeting, were they trying to be a jerk or were they trying to be helpful? And you don't know until you directly ask, right? So I tell you that story to kind of set up the 4 things that I think help make you an even better communicator, no matter what level you are, whether you have a lot of experience in front of groups and it's like secondhand to you. We need to make sure that you're focused on adopting that identity of becoming world class, because when you approach it with that way, that's when you'll have the big transformations and the big, when you say I'm a master communicator and it doesn't go the way you want, you'll be more curious as to say, okay, how can I improve this? But first thing to pay attention to when you want to become a master communicator, and I'm stumbling on my words as I'm doing this, is body language. And I know it's backwards for Instagram, but body language. So what do I mean by that? Like, there's a study in Harvard, and I don't remember, maybe it was Brene Brown. I need to remember that. But if you type in TED Talk, body language, they talked about how, Harvard business is a really like extroverted type of place where participation and, talking is a huge part of how they grade and how they, measure progress. And this one professor noticed that there were kids that were brilliant but were quiet. And so how do you engage people when they don't feel confident speaking in front of groups? That's essentially what it was. And some of it is your body language, right? How your body feels will impact your voice and how you communicate with people. So it's really cool. There's like the Superman pose where you put your hands on your hips, kind of like tea kettles on both sides. You can't see on Instagram. You stand up tall and you just kind of like hold that confident pose for a bit. It would actually allow people to talk more in like the groups and the group discussions in class, which is really fascinating. So using this tool of your body language for you, so you feel confident and come off as confident in a group of, potentially super confident, super, knowledgeable folks, right? So so that's a trick you can do. Doing some breathing to kind of slow down your brain. I have historically had the problem where my brain will go way quicker than my mouth. And so I'm like jumping ideas or like, mumbling happens a lot for me. I'm sure you guys know. So, just taking like 10 deep breaths in through your nose, out through your mouth, just help slow you down so that, you come off more articulating or articulate and you can recover from mistakes when you're speaking on the fly because this is live and totally real. So paying attention to your body language and how you're using your body to communicate. It's another thing, too, that if you have a really good idea but you're making yourself small, like there's a microphone and you're like afraid of it, people won't trust that message or won't trust your words as much as if you're like, okay, this is what's going on, guys. This is how I feel. This is my idea. That's talk about it. So all those little things, inward focused on body language to make you feel confident and calm and strong. And then, if you can accomplish that, it will show to other people and they'll buy into your message more. So body language, number one thing for, improving communication. The second thing is to not put intention on others, right? We don't know. Communication is not as perfect as we think. And so anytime you're assuming somebody's motivation, somebody else's feelings, somebody else's meanings, it's not true, right? The idea that is not true unless you say, hey, did you mean to sound like a jerk when you said that? Because you sounded like a jerk when you said it, and that's how I'm feeling about it. But I just want to know, if you did, like, okay, we can address it. If not, like, what did you intend? Just that very direct kind of checking in constantly on I'm interpreting it this way, is that the way you intended it, can go a long way diffusing some, conflicts. So don't assume other people's intentions, feelings, meaning behind things. And yeah, don't be afraid to do the next point, which is directly communicate, right? You want to make sure that, and again, in that scenario, like, hey, when you said this, did you mean this? That is that phrase. When you said this, did you mean this? Again, that exact phrase, I'm kind of looping now, but is super important because I think you need to be able to communicate directly without things up to interpretation. Because if you're like, hey, you said that thing, and then what, you just kind of get lost in trying to describe. It's like I felt this way, and maybe they felt that way, and is there a different way you could say it? Or, it's not directly saying, like, this landed in this way. Did you mean it? Very good. Or just checking in on people, like, hey, when you're talking about this thing in the meeting, I'm seeing you're a little bit shut down. Is there more to it, right? It's a very awesome key listening thing, is to pay attention to how people are. You can't really guess feelings, but you can ask about them. Hey, you're looking a little peeved about this. Like, do we need to dig into it, or just grumpy? Just before lunch, you need some blood sugar, like whatever it is. Assume positive intent, but directly say, hey, like, this is what I'm picking up. Am I reading it right? It will change how your interpersonal relationships go. It'll change how you respond in groups. And then the final point to become a world-class communicator is the belief that you can be a world-class communicator. Again, people play small a lot of times, or too small, and this is more of, if you don't think that you can communicate well or well enough or at that top level of like business leaders and celebrities and all that kind of stuff. Not that any of that's different than any other folks, but when you have that belief that you can become that, that's when you take your communication a little bit more seriously. Like, the words that you use are a tool, and they can be used for good, they can be used for evil, they can be left up to chance. And this belief that I can be the best communicator, I can be a better communicator than the people around me, is what's going to get you noticed. When you can articulate things clearly, or can handle tough conversations with a little bit of skill and a little bit of professional demeanor, because you can read the emotional intelligence, or use emotional intelligence in that setting, things change. You get looked up to, right? We all want people who can solve problems in a calm, collected way, and should still show feelings. Like, don't be a robot, but that can say, hey, this is a big emotion right now. Right now, you're really angry, and in this instance, I'm going to respond in a way that is with integrity for me, and is a way that's going to lead us into a better outcome than if I just take that and I don't know how to communicate back and I scream at you, say. So, I hope you found that helpful, guys. If you're like, how can I become an even more stronger communicator, a world-class communicator, and I want more kind of tips on how to handle like the body stuff, to kind of handle the confidence and beliefs stuff, then check out the link below this video called The 6 Secrets, where it's 6 Secrets of High Performers, but it's all about how do you feel more confident in your life? How do you feel more joy in your life? How do you feel more engaged in what's going on? And anyone can learn these 6 secrets. I did it for you for free, so make sure you sign up for that. And then at the end of that video, which is about 45 minutes, so it's a long one, but at the end of that video, there's an opportunity to take some next steps to help you build out a plan, but there's more in that in the video. So go check that out, and hope you enjoyed this video. Do the social media thing. Share this, like this, wherever you're watching it. I'd really appreciate it. And I'll talk to you guys later. Take care.